Hi, my name is Stephanie Vedral, and this is my signature project about the effects of book clubs on students with disabilities reading ACAP scores. Third grade students with disabilities in my school have shown limited reading growth across many diagnostic assessments. On the charts, you can see their reading grade level equivalencies. This first chart is from the beginning of the year in August. You'll see most third grade students with disabilities scored on a kindergarten level, with a few in first grade and two at a second grade level. On the second chart is from the middle of the year, taken around January, and there's minimal positive movement and even some regression shown from second grade down to first grade. And again, this was based on their iReady reading diagnostics. I hypothesized that book club interventions at the student's instructional level would provide practice with fundamental reading skills and comprehension skills to improve overall reading growth towards proficiency. Originally, I was going to use the iReady end of year diagnostic to measure growth, but students did not retake this in the summer like they had the year before, so I used the ACAP instead. I used the ACAP test that they took in April as the pretest, and the students who were in my sample did not pass that test in April. So they received intervention from me in June and then retook the ACAP supplemental at the end of June, which will serve as their post-test. The limited growth that students are making affects their potential future literacy, their ability to access grade level content, and future independence and opportunities such as furthering their education and job opportunities. Overall, research shows that book clubs help students with confidence, engagement, comprehension skills, vocabulary, and critical thinking, but there is limited research around book clubs' effectiveness for students with disabilities. And this is because the majority of intervention that students with disabilities receive around reading focuses primarily on decoding skills and accuracy and fluency rather than comprehension. For my sample, there are 14 students with disabilities in third grade at my school, and I randomly split those students into a group of 7 as a control group and a group of 7 as an experimental group. Both groups received their typical Tier 1 and Tier 2 intervention from their classroom teacher throughout the year, but the experimental group received this additional intervention in the summer on top of their typical summer school experience. For instrumentation, I primarily used iReady throughout this. The post and pretest, like I said before, were switched to ACAP, but the intervention itself was using a lot of iReady tools. For example, the diagnostics were used to help diagnose the issues and figure out where students were instructionally. I used their oral reading passages to read together and independently, and those also came with comprehension questions. And iReady also offers a teacher toolbox where you can print books along with comprehension questions. For this project, I collaborated with many people, starting with the ARI reading specialist and the local reading specialist, who helped me best utilize iReady for this and supervise the summer school program. The 7 other third grade teachers to understand my students who I would be working with better, the speech pathologist, special education paraprofessionals, and special education substitute teacher to understand these students' individual goals more clearly, and office staff and the principal and assistant principal for logistical efforts. For procedures, when we met for 30 minutes, we would start with stimulating background knowledge, depending on what the text was, so students could have a connection to the text. We would preview essential vocabulary for comprehension, and then do a mix of choral and independent reading while asking check for understanding questions And then I would have some sort of assessment, whether informal or formative, at the end of each 30 minutes. For validity, students were spread through 8 classrooms throughout the year, so growth can be influenced due to other factors such as the strength of Tier 1 and Tier 2 instruction by their classroom teacher. Students could have also had absences during the school year or during summer school to affect their growth, and any sort of outside tutoring or help from parents could help increase growth. Student effort in summer school, in their regular school year, and on the test could also affect their score. Overall, though, the sample is small and within one grade level and one school, so that is a limitation. Ethically, I made sure to keep names and data confidential, and I stored that data securely. I also received participation consent from my school, from students, and from families who were participating. If I were to carry out this research for publication, I would need to work with the IRB to ensure my participants are protected, especially since students with disabilities are a vulnerable population. They would provide additional safeguards to ensure that their educational rights are protected. On to my results. This results slide shows that overall students scored higher on the post-test, which is shown by the orange line, than on the pre-test, which is shown on the blue line. This chart includes both the experimental group and the control group. You can see that overall the mean and mode score increased significantly from post-test to pre-test. This results slide shows a different picture. This graph shows the number of points each student grew from pre-test to post-test. On the bottom here, you'll see each student is A, B, C, all the way through N. The orange is the control group that did not receive the intervention, and the blue is the experimental group. Although the experimental group had more students show growth, 5 out of 7 compared to 4 out of 7, their growth was less significant than the control group. If we look over here at the growth points, and at the growth points for both, you could see that the mean and median growth of the control group is larger than that of the experimental group. On a side note, with a larger sample size, I would have excluded students like student I, whose 80-point drop heavily skewed the data, but since the sample size was small, I kept all students in. To say this intervention was successful, I would want to see students in the experimental group more consistently grow and grow by at least 10 points. They did not score better than the control group, and therefore this research did not show me that this intervention was successful for this group of students for this particular goal. Reflecting, I still believe that reading comprehension skills practice needs to be increased or altered for students with disabilities, so I hope more research about this comes around. These types of studies would benefit from larger sample sizes, diverse demographics, and an assessment tool that focuses on only reading comprehension, as both iReady and ACAP takes into account all reading skills, not just comprehension. And these are my references, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.